The segment is the normal segment I do on the Saturday streams, so I have my paper here. I'm going to generate 3 random numbers. So I have 7, that's a car. I have 22, which for the verb is digest. This will be interesting. And I have 10 for the adjective is super. So we have to first decide whether the car is super or the digestion is super, but we can just assume that both of them are super. A superposition of superness, of digestion, and automobile mayhem. So first, let's get a car going. So we're going to do our normal boxy urban sedan. We'll get the normal wheels going. They are very small compared to the car, but you know, we're not really considering fuel economy when we are drawing this car, because we understand that this car is going to digest something, and what better to digest than what better car at digesting than a gas guzzling behemoth. So we have a 4-door sedan with a rear view mirror, and then the window and the rear window, and that is not the prettiest thing, but we'll give it some headlights, and we're gonna get the light coming out here. And then, if it's super, I mean, we'll probably give it a cape. I'm just going to hang it off the back here, because that seems the best in terms of aerodynamics. So we'll get the cape going. Kind of looks like a tongue, but I'll try to add some detail in here. So then, give it the seal of approval. That's it is super. So there's a supercar, and if it's super, we can assume it's going fairly fast. We could even assume that it is flying by some sort of mental power of anti-gravity. And so if the car is digesting something, it would have to have some sort of acidic stomach. So we can, if we have the fuel tank cap back here, so that's the door, and then you know, the fuel intake, and that is colored in. So we're gonna take a hamburger, and we are going to finish drawing the hamburger without ruining the burger itself. And then if the car were to digest it, I personally would assume that we would want to just shove the hamburger into the fuel pipe and then let it sit in the fumes for a while. But well, let's assume that this is a relatively acidic fuel, so the whole process of taking in the hamburger into the engine and then exploding the hamburger in the piston, and then pumping and pumping, and finally the exhaust would be back here, and the hamburger would come out and add to this trail of wind from how fast it's going. So I think that a car wouldn't have too much trouble of dismantling the burger, but in terms of turning it into a fuel, I think that a normal car would have a lot of trouble digesting. So we'll assume that this is just another trait of the superiority of the car. So this car has a reservoir of acidic of a let's just imagine that it's a bucket. So there's this bucket in here, and it's got acid in here, and somehow through chemical magic, which magic is okay because we're talking about a supercar, the burger will bubble through and turn into a flammable fuel that it would be preferably liquid that could go into the engine and begin the combustion process in order to propel the car forward. But I question whether the car needs to digest this food because it can already fly and move really fast. So unless this gas is required for the anti-gravity devices in the wheels, I would assume that the whole aspect of digestion would be somewhat irrelevant. But you know, supercars have to have hobbies, and if eating burgers is a hobby of the supercar, I will not judge it in the least. So I'm just going to add some clouds up here for aesthetic, and the sun to make it look even more like a child's drawing of a small urban sedan. And I will consider that a finished product. So I want to thank you all for sticking with me if you did, and if you're watching this later on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe and follow me on Twitter. My Twitter account is Jono Explains. That's Jono Explains without the things. And then, like I said, on Wednesday I will be at the ASME Makers Fair. I believe they call it a showcase, to show off my AI in the engineering atrium of the UCF campus. So if you are on campus on Tuesday, I believe that showcase is from 12 to 2. I wouldn't quote me on that exactly, but at least is going on at some point between 12 and 2. So I will be out there. If you want to come hang out, ask me questions in person. But that being said, I am going to sign off. So I thank you for watching, and I will see you on Wednesday.